Good morning, everybody. My name is Mr. Delacoste, and today we have assembled a roundtable discussion concerning the issue of the victims of communism. The School Board of Miami-Dade County Public Schools decided to make this week, the week of November 18th to November 22nd, the Victims of Communism Week. And the purpose of this is to shed light on the abuses going on in communist countries, most specifically Cuba. Okay, because in South Florida, we have a pretty decent understanding of how bad life is under communism in Cuba because we're so close to Cuba. But in most of the country, it's more of an abstract understanding. You know, it's like we know generally about communism, but we don't really have a very concrete idea of how bad life is on a day-to-day basis for people in a communist country. So I know I'm from Boston originally, and in Boston, like I said, we don't have a very, it's more of an abstract understanding that it's bad, but we don't really have the opportunity to be around people who have experienced life under a communist country. So we thought that by putting together a panel of students, some of whom have lived in a communist country, and others who have never lived in a communist country, and to kind of get the compare and contrast the experiences of having lived only in a democracy versus having lived at least some of their life under a communist country, that we could then get a better understanding of the differences between living in a democracy and living under a communist country. So that's the purpose of this panel. So as I said, my name is Mr. Delacoste, and then I would like to go ahead and allow the students to introduce themselves. So if you could just introduce your name and where you were born, just so we know where you were born. Go.
Is this on?
Yes.
Hi, I'm Austin, and I'm from Florida.
Hi, my name is Sophia, and I'm from Hialeah, Florida.
Hi, I'm Veronica, and I'm from Phoenix, Arizona.
Hi, I'm Valentina, and I'm from Hialeah, Florida.
Hi, I'm Haley, and I'm from Hialeah, Florida.
Hi, I'm Daniela, and I'm from Miami, Florida.
Hello, I'm Gabriela, and I'm from Ciego de Avila, Cuba.
My name is Anthony, and I born in Cuba and La Habana, and I'm 17 years old.
Hi, my name is Eric Perez, and I was born in Cuba, Santi Spiritus.
Hi, my name is Isabella, and I was born in Pinal del Rio.
Hi, my name is Adaris, and I was born in Matanzas, Cuba.
All right, very good. So for my first question, I would like to ask the students who were born in a communist country, Cuba, what was school life like when you were growing up, or what are your memories of going to school and your teachers, homework? What was it like in elementary school, or if you were or in middle school if you were there in middle school? What was it like? What are your memories of that experience? Anybody can start.
Well, I lived 15 years of my life in Cuba, so I pretty came to the United States really recent. I lived there in elementary and kindergarten and middle school. Yeah. My life there, starting from elementary, was really simple. Like it was really fun, like every other child. But in elementary, things were changing, and I made teachers, I made friends. My school was really close to my house, so I've never an issue in transportation. But some people live far away, and it's not here. It's not like here that everyone have a car, everyone have motorcycles whatever. So many people have to take the transportation, public bus, and for some of them, they have to wake up really early, like 5 a.m., 5 a.m., and it was yeah, really different. Like here, no, over there, not everybody have a car, not everybody have a mom that can go get you to school. So yeah, I have to wake up early, and I just have to walk to school. That was just nearly close to me. But for other people, have to take the bus, and there was the thing with the bus is is not like here. Like here, it's really empty, and it's air conditioning. There is like really a bunch of people inside, and you sometimes you have to be standing up, and you have to take a lot of time to get to school. But as I were growing, teachers were really good. Actually, I've really had fun in the school, but yeah, it's the lunch was not the same as was here. Here is pretty good. So I remember to eat rice and and beans and watermelons and stuff like that. And sometimes I didn't like it because sometimes it was really bad. So I just got food from my mom and the lunch. I get my lunch bag, and I came every day with the lunch, and I get to school. My teachers were really good. Some teachers they were really good, but some of them sometimes they were absent. Like I remember a teacher that I have in fifth grade that it just it was absent like twice a week, or yeah, twice a week. But so we are sometimes left behind class. But for most of the teachers, they were really good. I learned a lot, and socially, it's really different from here. So there, it was everybody was friends. You were friends with other classes. You know everybody from second grade to sixth grade, and yeah, it was really different. And when I went to middle school, things changed a little bit. But since that time, I was in COVID, so I didn't live too much middle school. So I just spent 2-3 years in my house, and then I came here.
Okay, thank you very much, Anthony. You're probably the first student to ever compliment our lunches in public schools, right? Most people, they think of lunch in public schools, and they don't compliment it. So it's interesting that you give it a compliment. But thank you for your experience. Someone else like to talk? Eric, would you like to share your experience?
So Cuba was very different. The school was very different, the PE. Because here you can go to the field and you can play, but that was like in the street. Like when one car had to pass, or one bicycle, we had to open something that was like the closing thing. We had to open it so they can pass. We had to stop playing. It was very different. And the lunch that I was talking about, sometimes you gotta go to your house to eat because the lunch wasn't that good. It was just rice, beans, and whatever. You know what I mean? And yeah, it was very different. The teachers teach pretty good. Yeah, the math teacher. But sometimes they're absent too, like twice a week. Yeah, and it was super different. But like in kindergarten, it was pretty good for me because I was a child, you know what I mean? I didn't know too much, but I think it was pretty good. Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Eric. So from our group that only has lived in America, would you like to share your experience with school versus what you've heard from relatives who grew up in Cuba or a communist country, just to kind of give us an idea of how you feel your experience was different than, say, your parents or grandparents who who lived in Cuba. So would anybody like to, yes, Haley?
So, my mom, when she was in Cuba, she used to go to like a very ballet-focused school, and I think that's definitely a different perspective because she didn't receive as well of an education there as in regular school because they really had more of a focus on the arts, like ballet. Whereas here, I'm able to focus on my sports and school at the same time, and I receive a very good education, even though I'm kind of following other other things that I want to do. So.
The main reason that my parents came to the United States was to give me other educational opportunities that they weren't able to have. And my dad recently, like a few weeks ago, showed me a documentary on teachers in Cuba and the way that they teach and the knowledge that they have. And the knowledge that we have here and the diverse variety of education that we get here doesn't compare to the amount of education that the kids in Cuba get, which, as I had mentioned, is the main reason that my parents came here. And also, I am able to balance with my schoolwork other extracurricular activities that my mom in Cuba had to drop because of the economic situation that her parents were in at the time. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. All right, so we're going to move on to another question here. So I want to focus on home life. What was it like? No, we talked about school. Coming home to your house, what your neighborhood, what kinds, dinner. What, did everyone eat together? What was it like for what kinds of activities and fun things could you do? Here in America, where everyone loves to play video games and they watch television and stuff like that. But did you guys do that as well, or was it more like neighborhood children playing together, playing sports? I know baseball is big in Cuba. What kinds of things? How would you describe home life as far as you can remember it growing up in Cuba? Anyone like to start with that?
Yeah.
Anthony?
Yeah, like I said, I lived there 15 years, so it was a really huge amount of time. So when I remember with sometimes or most every day when I went to home after school, there were my friends playing soccer down, or playing baseball, playing volleyball, or playing so many other games, and it was really fun. It's really different from here because sometimes here you don't know your neighbors, and there you know everybody. You know the security guy. You know the guys who is from another part of the city. You know everybody. And when I went to home, I just called my friends. I live in a building for 12 ¿cómo se dice aquí? 12 levels, and yeah, we were after school playing so many games and having so much fun, and we were like family there. We were friends and we were family, and yeah, we have so much fun. We didn't stay at home working, and what I remember I actually do my homework at school, and I just when I went to home, I really excited to play with my friends soccer and play whatever, and just go out from my house, just have fun and live my life out of my house.
Thank you, Anthony. Yes.
Okay. In Cuba, the relationship you have with everybody in your town, or just everybody that you communicate with on a daily basis, is really different from here. Most of your teachers will be involved in your personal life. They're friends with your family, and you're, like he said, you're friends with all your neighbors. You know everybody in town, and oftentimes when you mentioned with dinner, sometimes when there's somebody in the neighborhood that has more opportunity, they'll just cook for the whole neighborhood, or for the closest people they know there, because we're family, Instead here, it's just individual, everybody eats as a family.
like alone. You don't really see, it's not very common here to see that people like, oh, hand out like big portions of food to their neighborhood, but in Cuba that's a very common thing. And they just like wait for that to happen.
All right, thank you very much. What I'm hearing from you is that even though people don't have a lot, there's a strong sense of community, and that it's like I remember when I was a child, I would go back to France because my parents are French, and the village where my father grew up is not a particularly well-off village. It's probably lower middle class, I'd say, but the children that were there always invited me to play with them, and I spoke French, so that helped. But that was a major thing that we did. I always felt like welcome, even though I was American and didn't grow up in France. I always felt like they would include me, and we would just play all kinds of sports all the time. Like I was there in the summer, and we probably spent almost every minute outside because that's what they did. Nobody was sitting around playing video games or watching television. We were out doing stuff. And so I guess I can kind of understand what that even, when you don't have to have a lot to have a sense of community. And that's what is a beautiful thing, is even with how bad the government is and how terrible communism is, the spirit of people in the country has not been eroded. The sense of community, the sense of caring and doing things together. That is something that's very, very interesting. I'm glad to hear that perspective. Isabella, would you like to weigh in? What's your experience as far as, I know you came over when you were a little bit younger, but you've gone back many times to Cuba. What's your experience from what you've seen, and how people, social gatherings and home life, how would you describe what your experience is?
Like they said, everybody knew like everyone. So people like she mentioned, people had more opportunity. Like they would get food from the people who were already in this country. They would get sent a lot, and then everyone, like they would share the food because most people didn't have that opportunity. But we would spend like our afternoons as a kid, like I would just go into the forest with my friends, and we'd make little huts and we'd run around. Like I rarely spent time at home.
Very good. And then I'd like to go ahead and give an opportunity for our students here who in America. What is your experiences as well from here, and would you like to talk about that? Yes. Okay.
So for me, I didn't live in a very large city type of area, and so in comparison, I grew up in a small Arizona town close to Phoenix. Regardless of that, everyone was a little bit more closed off, but very respectful, of course. But I feel like the privileges that we had, every single day I would go home, I would always have food on the table. I would always have electricity. I could watch TV whenever I wanted. I had air conditioning. I had heat. I feel like that kind of allows kids to be a little bit more sheltered, and instead of kind of being more outgoing and interacting more with your community and uniting under, I guess, the common disadvantages that you all have, we would be able to take advantage of what we did have at the expense of, I guess, stronger relationships with those around us. But I am really grateful, because every time I hear about the power outages in Cuba, how people have to scrape pennies together to try to make a meal for their families, how those who have to share it with those who don't, or else their lives could be at risk. I'm very glad that I didn't have to go through those types of things, but I do feel that it's beautiful that that sense of community could flourish from those hard conditions.
Okay, thank you, Veronica. And Haley, would you like to add, or not Haley, Valentina, would you like to add to that?
I will say that when I get home, me and my neighbors are close, but we barely go play outside. It'd be maybe twice a year we find each other outside and actually play a game. But mostly when I get home, I just do my homework, and whenever I'm usually done, there is always food on the table, and I do always have electricity. So I'm very grateful for that.
All right, thank you. I'd like to move on to our next question. So we've talked about home life, we've talked about school, I'd like to talk a little bit about summer and vacation, time away from school. In America, summer vacation is a really important time. Okay, I'd like to describe what it was like in Cuba, like when you were away from school and you had time. What kinds of, did you travel throughout Cuba? Were you able to leave Cuba and go other places? Like I said, when I was a child, I would go to France to visit my relatives in France in the summers. Did you have a chance to visit in America or to visit other places? Anthony?
Well, to visit another country, that was a thing that really few people can afford it, because especially my parents, didn't have the money to get, because the low wages that they get in their work. But I remember my mom every single summer after school, we went to grandma. It's like in the eastern part of Cuba, is like next to Santiago and next to Guantanamo. Is really far from La Habana, and we went to bus. Like it was a 14 hours ride, and yeah, I went to visit my grandma and my aunts that were there, and that's what I do most of my summers. But I remember living there. Life was really different from not just La Habana, but huge different from Cuba, from United States, and the sometimes, yeah, electricity go down and that places, and grandma, as I remember, but as any other city and any other uh, place in Cuba, we were all family. I remember my grandma taking care of me every single time, and I just went out of the house playing with my friends and playing and running and moving around the city, and just having fun. I remember have a lot of fun that I've never have experienced here. I remember that there was a computer, like a room. I don't know how to say that. That where we were playing games. It was called the Joven Club. It's a club that we went to, and we would play games. But there was a line, so sometimes I remember waking up excited at 6 a.m. to went there play Halo 2. Halo 2. It was really fun, and with my friends, because I couldn't do that in La Habana. No, because there weren't Joven Clubs in La Habana. It's because I would live far away from one, and you have to pay. I remember pay peso from 1 hour, something like that. But yeah, there was a line where I just really have fun, and that was half of the summer, and the other half of the summer I spent in my house and with my friends, and we were doing all the stuff. We were playing soccer, we were moving around, we would sometimes visit restaurants. My dad couldn't afford many go to hotels or go to another country, but sometimes we were to parks, and we went having fun and just go out of the house.
Thank you, Anthony. And Adaris, I'd like to get your input as well. So, Adaris?
One memory during vacation that really stands out to me is when I would go to a zoo with my mom and my dad. There was trash everywhere. There was a river. It was dirty. And I remember that they couldn't even muster up the money to keep their animals fed. So for example, the lions, you could see their rib cages. They were extremely skinny. They were malnutritioned. And I do remember that my mom told me a story once that when she would go to the zoo when she was younger, there was a monkey that if you did not bring her food, she would throw her poop at you. It's a fun story. I just wanted to share that. So yeah, some public spaces can't muster up money to keep it clean, to feed their animals. I just wanted to point that out. Because the economy due to inflation, all that, I don't know what I'm talking about. Yeah, I just wanted to point that out.
No, thank you. It's a very colorful story. So I'd like to turn over to our group over here. Yes, Danielle? Okay. Yeah.
So my parents lived in Cuba a majority of their life, and they tell me stories about just for fun, they would just go out into the street and play with the other kids. That's what fun means to them. And then also for vacation, they don't have that opportunity. They don't have that privilege. So they normally would just call their American family, like, hey, you can come over for summer. And that's what would happen because the opportunity to come here, it was very limited. Like, it wasn't for everyone. It was just for people who had the money.
Austin?
This is from personal experience, but every year for summer, we would go for around 2 weeks to Cuba. And also my grandparents, my grandma and grandpa, they would
Microphone?
they would they would they would come to the U.S. and for around a month or 2 months, and they would stay here, and they would always tell us stories about how about their life in Cuba, and every time we would go over, I could tell like the major difference between their summers and our summers, because there was not really a lot to do. I mean, compared to us, who have so many things to do here, like we have technology, we have games, we have computers, we have consoles, stuff that makes us that basically takes up our whole summer. And you could tell by the way that people connected in Cuba, it was different to the way that we connect here. Neighbors, they would always talk to each other. When we went to my grandma's house, everyone would come up and talk to her. We would rent a car, and we would drive through the little town where we were in Santa Clara. And they would wave at us, they would talk to us. We would stop, and people would come up to us and like wave to us and everything. And it was like, wow, like how does everyone know each other? And my parents would personally send food, things, even consoles and computers to my grandparents and my cousins, because they just didn't have a lot to do. But you could tell that the community was just compact. It was very social, and that was their way of kind of compensating for the lack of actual like activities. They would play out, even with the cars passing by in the street. They would just play with whatever ball they could find or whatever they could find. And honestly, I kind of got used to that at some point, because it was just way more fun than just staying at home, for months and just playing video games or doing whatever and barely going out. It was just a lot more fun, and you could live that experience. You could tell the difference in fun and the amount of fun that you have going just to Cuba.
Thank you, Austin. Sophia?
I have family from different parts of Cuba, particularly from La Habana and Cienfuegos. And in La Habana, my cousins had more opportunities than my cousins in Cienfuegos did because they were able to play in the park near them. They were able to help their parents with groceries. And even if they didn't have the electrical opportunities that we had here with the technology, they were able to play on their TVs different channels with different cartoons that were trending, particularly Russian cartoons. But my cousins in Cienfuegos, they live basically in a camp. So they entertain themselves by playing with the animals in the farm or the gadgets that we would bring for them from the US, which would be like scooters and bikes and little toys. That's what they would entertain themselves with. And their vacations weren't exactly vacations. It would just be me and my family coming over to visit them because my cousins didn't have the opportunity, nor did my parents, to actually have a real vacation. And my parents, I think they ended up having their first vacation when they came here to the United States and they went to their first theme park, which was Universal.
Can I add on to something real quick? I'd like to highlight that the economic situations of many families in Cuba played a large role in their ability to leave the country. But I've also noticed that the government does place a lot of limits on people traveling outside of natives traveling to other countries. While for us in the United States, if, for example, if any of our families would like to travel to Europe, if we have the means to do so, our country will gladly let us. They will let us go through all of the checks. They will open up the airport for us. But in Cuba, it's just not the same. Or any communist country, really. They prefer to keep their people more sheltered and to keep them inside rather than the freedom that our country, the United States, can provide most of us.
Okay, thank you, Veronica. So we would like to end with one last question, and this question will be open to anyone from either side, okay? Because I want to conclude with why did your family come to America? Okay, so I can tell you that my parents came for religious reasons, okay? Their economic situation was not bad in France, but at least speaking for my mother, they both were French. So they both came over in a little bit different story. But I know my grandparents on my mother's side, they came over because they wanted to be able to practice their religion freely. It was a very different form of Catholicism than what was typical in France, and so they felt like they could be more comfortable in the United States. That was their main motivation. So I'd like to know what their other economic motivations. You know, maybe that's certainly a driving force, and political motivations. Perhaps being able to speak openly and be able to criticize the government, to travel freely. That could have been the main motivation. Job opportunities, starting a business. Whatever. What was your main motivation, as far as you know, that from your parents or grandparents for coming to America? So anyone can jump in. Haley?
So my grandparents came to the United States with my mom when she was pretty young. And my grandma was a lawyer and my grandpa was a judge. So you'd think that's a pretty good profession. But they barely made enough money to be able to afford food. So they kind of had to find other means to make money. So my grandpa would forge documents from a university director because, like for medicine, it was a university for medicine. And basically the director would deny students their degrees. Even if they did all the credits, they had all the years, they would deny the degrees because, they had like something against them or they were part of a political party that he didn't agree with. So my grandpa started receiving threats because of that, and my grandparents decided they had to leave for his safety. And then it was also an economic part where, they had good jobs and they still weren't making enough.
Adaris, would you like to?
My family left Cuba for economic reasons because my mom and dad worked at a resort for Russian tourists and American tourists, which I'm not sure why they would like to go to Cuba. But they had to scrape up pennies together to keep me fed, to keep my family fed. and I'm very grateful that I was never missing, that food was always on the table. I had toys. Um, but I repeat, my family came here to the United States from Cuba due to economic reasons, and my mom knew that it was going to get worse. So it was about, so she was waiting about 7 years, I think, to get the visa to be able to come here. And thankfully, the visa arrived in time, and we were able to get here to the United States at 2017. All right, thank you.
Okay, and then Sophia, you like to?
My mom, from a young age, had to begin working at the age of 16 because her father got sick. And my grandma was a chemist, but as Haley had mentioned, those great jobs that you would see here that earn a lot of pay, they didn't earn as much pay as they do here in the United States. So my mom sought to look for other opportunities, as well as my dad, because they worked at the National Hotel in Havana and they weren't earning enough. And they also wanted to bring all of our family and extended family here to the United States because they were all suffering economically. And she also wanted to bring to her future children educational opportunities that she wasn't able to receive, and other opportunities like extracurriculars that I'm able to do today that she had to drop out of, or she couldn't even do or know of in Cuba. Thank you.
So my parents, I would say, well, with what they told me, they were pretty well off in Cuba. My mom was a musician, which here might not make as much money, but she worked in El Mariachi, which was pretty popular, and it would be like called for every party. And then my dad, he worked in a factory, which made pretty good pay. So they didn't really come here for economic reasons. It's more for political reasons, and then also opportunities for their future children. Because over there, obviously, the education isn't the same. They also they can only vote for one political party. And then freedom of the press, that just doesn't exist over there. They can't express their opinions. So those are just some of the reasons why my parents came here to the States.
Okay, thank you. And I'd like to hear from Eric, too. So go ahead and share with us your family.
Yeah. First of all, there was no freedom of speech. Basically, if you said something, you could go to jail or something, basically. And yeah, we came here for economic too, but like most of it for political things that we didn't like. Because in Cuba, for over like 60 years, there's a dictatorship. So yes, we came here because of political things and for more opportunities for a better future. And yeah, I think.
Okay, I think we have time for one more. Isabella?
My parents came here for economic purposes and for better job opportunities. When I was very, very, very young, my dad went to Ecuador. He was there by himself for 2 years, where he became a dentist, and he finally made enough to bring us over. Because both of my parents were dentists in Cuba, but they were barely making enough to keep us fed. So I remember the first time I ever got a doll was thanks to my dad, like when he wasn't here.
All right, thank you. So in conclusion, I would like to just, first of all, thank everybody for participating. It's been very enlightening for myself, and I think for everyone in the audience. Just hearing, making it more personal. Like I said, I think a lot of us know in the abstract what it's like, the struggles you have to go through living under communism. But to actually hear your life experiences, the home life, the life in school, and all these experiences that you had, and comparing it, it's uplifting because we also understand that despite all the challenges, Cubans have made the most of it. right? They still focus on the important values of family and community and sharing, and that has the government has not been able to take that away from the Cuban people, right? And that's something that, you know, maybe we don't. That's what's important about doing stuff like this, is that you realize, you know, that no matter what happens, that cannot be taken away. And so that was very, very moving to hear about that, and I enjoyed the experiences from, you know, but I said both sides, people who've only known democracy and people who've experienced both. I think that was very enlightening. So thank you very much, and I think that's all we have for today.